Thank you for being here. I'd like to call the 5 o'clock work session to order. Dr. Hargens, if you'd like to introduce the work session, please. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Chair Porter. Jefferson County Public Schools is proud to be a district of innovation, and it's been an exciting process to go through the development and proposing schools of innovation. And of course, as everyone knows, 2 schools were recommended for implementation, Catalpa and Reach. And it's been exciting. And I would just focus everybody to say, why do we innovate? Innovation is about doing things differently to get an improved result. So that's really why we undertook this process. So Jonathan Lowe, the Director of Strategy, is going to work you through responses to the questions. And remember, we had some meetings with parents and affected staff, and some other things regarding the 2 proposals of Catalpa and Reach, and then update you about Metro Museum and Next Generation. So I'll turn it over to Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you very much. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to try and go through in this work session, there's a lot, so we're going to move relatively fast-paced to make sure that we stay within the time that we have. First, we want to make sure that we're providing responses to the questions that you posed at the last session that we talked about, and then give you a brief summary of the meetings that we had with affected parents and staff, talk a bit about the communications that has occurred and is going to occur moving forward to make sure people are informed, give you a thumbnail set of budget estimates, talk a bit about the cross-functional team and implementation leaders, and then finally, as Dr. Hargens stated, talk about what's going on with the other 2 finalists, the Next Generation Community Schools and the Metro Museum Magnet School. So we're just going to hop right in, and this is just sort of a question and answer. These were the questions that I heard you raise at the last meeting, and trying to give you some answers to that. We're going to start with Catalpa School, which is the one that the recommendation is to put the Catalpa School concept at Maupin Elementary. What kind of renovations are required, and what is the estimated cost? We believe that no major renovations are needed. We are looking at a $100,000 renovation allowance in the 15-16 fiscal year budget if that's needed. Typically, when you have a move within a school, things come up that need to be dealt with. So we'll just be prepared for that. The question was raised both in your meeting and also in meetings with families, whether the school would retain its name, being named for Milburn T. Maupin. Our recommendation to the board, it is a board decision what schools are named, is that it retain Milburn T. Maupin in the name. And there are a couple of different ways that you could do that. Our thought is, have that conversation, solicit input from the public, and come up with something that works for people. The next question is the grade configuration for 2015-16, and how will middle schools be added. Our thought is to start with a K-5 school, essentially starting with it's going to be a significant thing to get that up and running, and then adding additional grades is additional work, and we thought we could do that over time. The next set of questions were related to human resources, and I first want to say that the details of what this is going to look like are really going to be hammered out in discussions and conversations with JCPS staff and JCTA, and make sure that that's all negotiated and that people are up front. So these are general thoughts about what's going to happen, but details to come. So the first question is, what would happen to current Maupin teachers? And just like current Maupin teachers would be eligible to apply for the positions at the school, with the understanding that there would be a long-term commitment they would be making to Waldorf-inspired education. There are going to be some folks that maybe that's really not what they're looking for in their professional lives, or they have a different perspective on education, and they'd have the opportunity to find a position in another school. Students that don't have Waldorf training would be required to be trained and get certification over the course of 4 years. The question was raised both by you and also in meetings with parents and staff, what would the training look like and how much it would cost. It's extensive. 4 annual 2-week summer institutes, so that's 2 weeks per year for 4 years. That would be leading to a certification. There would also be additional Waldorf professional development that would be throughout the school year, school-based. The cost of that 2-week summer institutes is $1,000 per teacher per year. And the recommendation is that those trainings be paid for by JCPS as part of implementation of this school concept. Question was whether professional development credit would be available and would there be an opportunity for Rank 1 certification. My understanding is professional development credit would be available. Discussions are underway with Spalding to develop a Waldorf program that would lead to Rank 1. That is not set yet. It's a work in progress, but eventually there seems to be a good possibility that that would be something that could happen. Continuing on with the Catalpa School and Maupin Elementary, there were some questions connected to sort of like who gets served at Maupin right now. So here are some demographic information. Right now, K-5 enrollment is at 458. Early childhood enrollment is 33. 90+% of the kids are eligible for free and reduced price lunch. 5.2% receive ESL services. 13.9% receive ECE services. And then there's a breakdown by race that's provided, very high percentage. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get this forward. I apologize. So high percentage of students of color, and you can see what those are. Regarding, students who come, what percentage of students come from the immediate area? It's broken down in a couple of different ways. The first one is, of the students who live in the resides area, there are 497 students that live in the resides area. 167 of those students from the resides, or 34%, attend Maupin. Of the students that are actually in the school, there are 458, and again, there are 167 of those, or 36%, are resides kids. Another question was, what is the building capacity of Maupin Elementary? It's 675. Is the student capacity with 33 full-size classrooms. And so, that was one of the things that we were thinking about. This is a school that has 450 current, or 490 if you include the early childhood, and a capacity of 675. There's room to grow there. Another school that's impacted by this proposal is Bick Elementary, which is the one that currently has a Waldorf-inspired program, and you had requested additional information about BIC. The current enrollment at BIC is 540 students. That's K-5. Early childhood is 95. And then again, the question about, okay, are these resides kids or not? So there are 823 children in the resides area, and 234 of them, or 28%, attend BIC. And then of the 540 students in BIC, 234 of them are reside students, or 43%. And then there was a question about the magnet programs that currently exist in terms of like how many children are in those. 15.5% of them, or 84, are in the Waldorf program, and 15% are in the talent development programs. Again, BIC currently has two magnet programs. And then the building capacity, they have a enrollment right now of 540. The capacity is 640 students with 30 full-size classrooms. There were some other questions connected to BIC Elementary, just to make sure that as we're doing something new somewhere else, that we're paying close attention to what's going on in this existing school. So the question was raised. You know, BIC already has a Waldorf program. Why is the recommendation to implement it Maupin as opposed to BIC, which already has that? There are kind of two main components to the thinking. First is that the Magnet School of America recommendation, which we think is a good one, is that there should be one school-wide magnet program in each school. If you're going to have a magnet program, having multiple sort of dilutes the power and the ability of the school staff to really focus in on doing that with excellence and fidelity. The second thing is that in conversations with folks at BIC, their preference is to move to a stronger implementation of talent development. And so those put together made us think about looking somewhere else. And then the question was asked, what are we going to do to make sure that remaining talent development program is strong and viable? That's actually a question that was asked by the BIC principal. So she's already thinking, has a forward-thinking view and wants to have conversations with district leadership about what it would look like and what kind of supports the district can move forward. In my mind, that aligns very well with some of the recommendations of the Magnet Review that really thinks that the district needs to strengthen the way that we support all of our magnet programs, and that's, you know, work that will be ongoing and undertaken. So as a general matter, I think the plan would be for the magnet office to work with the BIC principal and their staff to develop a plan. So I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like, because the people, you know, we need to really work that out and make sure it's a robust response. And then I note that there are some funds that are currently allocated to the Waldorf-inspired program. A consideration as you think about the budget is whether in some kind of transitional phase to kind of bolster what's going on talent development, if you maintained that and pushed it toward that. That's an idea, but, you know, something to think about. So on to the next part, which is Louisville Reach Academy.
Take questions.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot of data, and I'm sorry, we're...
Ms. Haddad.
Thank you. Now, when we talk about the Catalpa School, and I think it should stay for Melvin Maupin. He was a wonderful man. I was very fortunate to work with Melvin. But now, when you say Maupin it's an elementary school, and so you're going to add up to 8th grade, and you said you wouldn't have to make any changes. Well, you will for middle school kids as they come in. You're going to have to change some of the things for middle school kids at elementary schools.
Right. So we've had a good deal of discussion internally, and based on the way that the facilities folks talk about it, in terms of like actual renovation, movement from elementary to a middle school, there's no significant renovation that would need to be done. In terms of furniture and those kinds of things, yes, some additional you know, expenditure would be done, but it's not expected to be significant.
Yeah, but restrooms would have to be.
Well, actually, restrooms moving from elementary to middle and high school, pretty much they all have standard size commodes that that look the same whether you're at Klondike or Maupin or at a middle school or high school. So
It's
you know,
changed since my kids were in school.
well, so for early childhood, there is some modification that needs to happen, but that's really and so like if you go to those schools, you're going to find something that looks like.
Yeah, but when we talk about the training, is there any way for to get grants to help with that Waldorf training? You know, I mean, that's going to be pretty expensive. And I know when we did Lincoln, that the arts people got some grants to help, and I'm just not sure if the Waldorf people wouldn't be able to do the same thing to pay for their summer professional development.
I don't know the answer to that. Later in the proposal,
I mean,
we do lay out what the cost is, and certainly, you know, getting access to funds external to our general fund is always a good idea.
Yeah, because that was, and then let's see. I still have a concern about BIC with moving that program. And I don't know how many, there's not many children in the talent development. Would the whole school become a talent development? Or would it just still be an option that they wouldn't have to make the whole school?
So it would just remain a magnet
Okay.
program at BIC Elementary, and so you would get a set of kids that are arriving at that school specifically because they want to participate in the talent development
Right.
program. And, you know, my hope would be that as we work to strengthen that program, you would get a greater number of students that would be wanting to participate. But there would also be a component of kiddos that would be assigned through the cluster assignment process.
I had someone ask me, they thought the Waldorf and the talent kind of, every once in a while, interacted with each other. Is that, have you all heard that? That was a call I got.
I'm sure that's the case, but I
Yeah,
don't have the
okay.
details about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Duncan?
Did you talk to the parents of the kids who are in the Waldorf program right now at BIC to see what that interest is in moving then to Maupin?
So there were some parents who were from BIC who were there, and I would say we're going to get to you know, the meetings per se, but just in response to your question, I would say that they're generally supportive of the program, believe in Waldorf education, and would be very interested in you know, continuing that in a different location. That was my sense of it. One of the things that having a school that has fairly significant excess capacity means that we would be able to accommodate people who are interested in staying with the Waldorf program, coming into you know, the facility at Maupin, and also allow students who are Maupin students right now and who want to stay there because they care about that community. Both of those could be accommodated, we think.
Mr. Hadaway and then Ms. Westland.
Can you tell me what a talent development magnet is?
So it is an effort to use individualized instructions to encourage students to meet their fullest potential and to work on opportunities for learning that are connected to their interests and their abilities. I think that there's work to be done maybe to strengthen to strengthen what exactly that means and how it's played out in the school.
I think the opportunity to go to one theme gives you the opportunity to strengthen that theme and to strengthen the Waldorf theme by having those 80 students be in a Waldorf school. So, and Magnet Schools of America, remember, that's now a connection of schools that have themes that are similar that we've never taken advantage of. And somebody asked about grants. There are Magnet School grants that schools or districts get to really build capacity within magnet schools. We just haven't been connected to that, so that's an option too.
What is, were there hurdles, were there roadblocks for Waldorf not to be fully embraced at BIC? What were because I remember in the presentation that there were some elements of Waldorf education there, and I'm hearing there's a program, a magnet, but what's the big leap from Catalpa to this, or from that?
I think there are kind of two parts to it, and this is just you know, listening to what's going on, and one of them is sort of that bifurcation of focus within a school makes it a challenge if you're a school leader that's dealing with both of those things and then the other things that are, you know, in front of you. That gets complicated, and so if you can simplify and pursue excellence, that can strengthen things. The second thing that I think is stronger about what the proposal brings is, you know, the keen focus on additional training and professional development to deepen the knowledge and capacity of teachers to really implement with fidelity.
And the principal was, the principal of BIC was in one of the original meetings where we talked about it and said that the school preferred to be talent development rather than Waldorf, because we thought that was the logical thing, is see if they could develop into a full Waldorf school. But that's the feedback we got from the school.
Ms. Westland?
Thank you. Excuse me. I can certainly see where a Waldorf type of school really would need to be a whole school because it's so unique. This question I have, I think we might have brought it up last time, but I don't know if you'll have a full answer, but it's definitely something you need to watch. Because it's so unique, Waldorf, there's a concern I'm sure people have about student mobility, especially children from lower income families who often move around a lot. It probably wouldn't be great for them to move from Waldorf to a regular classroom or to a traditional school, so a great effort's going to have to be made to, if they move, to transport them there. So it's, all of this has this transportation, you know,
Yes.
even the move from the Phoenix, where the Phoenix school was to where it is, has changed transportation and caused some different considerations. So that mobility issue is something pretty serious. If you haven't learned to read by, you know, age 7, or that's not an emphasis, you don't want to go to some other school where that's been really taught hard at kindergarten on.
So that was a critical reason why I recommended that there be a magnet component to, a district-wide magnet component to the Catalpa school, is because of that mobility concern. With a district-wide magnet, if you get those kids to have a magnet override, they can have transportation even if they're moving their household. Mm-hmm. The other thing I do want to share is that the Catalpa folks, in a community conversation where this issue was arrived, you know, what happens if I move and my child is going to be attending a more traditional kind of school? You know, what's the transition going to be like? And they said it would be a challenge, that there is a difficulty there that students might experience because, you know, this is a plan that gets you from K-8 and does a good job, but if you stop in the middle, it's more challenging.
That's just something you'll have to monitor and figure out along the way.
Mr. Jones?
So my concern, as I said 2 weeks ago, is that we're being too timid about innovation, and I don't understand how a 4-year transition that starts with a handful, I mean, it sounds like a handful of kids and a handful of teachers, most of whom it sounds like are going to be the same teachers who are in the school today, who get 2 weeks of training, is going to be anything to jump up and down about. I mean, convince me that we are actually doing something innovative here rather than something incremental.
So that's a challenge, and I think that you're echoing things that I hear from the Catalpa folks as well. And I guess my thinking is that that's something to be navigated, because we need to both hold on to that you know, work toward excellence and fidelity of implementation, and make sure that the people who are already at Maupin are treated well and have the opportunity to, you know, excel in their professional lives. And so that's the work of our cross-functional team to figure out how that's going to work and make sure we don't lose the power that's available, but also make sure that we're not just make sure that we're treating everybody fairly. And that's big, difficult work.
But the concept isn't really to do this incrementally. The concept is to have in 15-16 this school be a Catalpa school, so that, and people have choice, that parents understand that it's a Catalpa school, understand what that means, and that there's opportunity in student assignment to choose a different school within your cluster or another magnet school. So that communications piece is really important, that you understand that this is going to be a Waldorf school. And I think staff members also need to understand that you have to commit to training and that you have to commit to being a Waldorf school. So this isn't, I know we had originally talked about like starting at kindergarten and incrementally going up, but we've changed direction to say that this will be a complete Catalpa school in 15-16. So it's not just the 80 students that come from BIC. The kindergartners who choose it will know that they're going to grow up K-5 and eventually K-8 in a school that is a Waldorf method. So, so I think we changed directions from what we originally said. So it's not slow. Now, the risk is people won't want to, you know, we won't be able to fill the school. That people, when given the choice, I don't think the risk is that you wouldn't be able to attract teachers that wanted to do it, but I think a risk is that you wouldn't get enough students to have a full school, that people would abandon the concept. But that's not the feeling you got at the community meeting.
So let me ask, because that risk, I'm willing to take that on. It seems like a good idea. If people don't like it, then they won't go there. But where's the Catalpa principle coming from?
Well, there would have to be, you know, the person who is hired would need to have, you know.
So we're searching
Appropriate
for
training.
we are bringing in a new principal.
Recruiting
Yes.
for a new
We're
principal.
recruiting
yes.
for a new
Yes.
principal.
And with appropriate experience and certifications.
And are we working with JCTA to really get a mix of teachers there who are gung-ho about this particular type of teaching?
We absolutely will. That's
Yes.
work that's
And
before
Dr.
us.
Razor has started conversations, but
Okay. Because I think as long as we're going at it and everybody is into it.
Right. It is important to make sure that everybody's on board and heading in the same direction when you're starting something big like this. So.
Yeah, because if innovation just happens to people, it doesn't work. So.
yeah, that important piece is the students choose to be there because it's Waldorf, and the teachers choose to be there because it's Waldorf. And the commitment is both on the part of the teachers and the students.
Ms. Haddad?
How do you know, the enrollment's going to start out kind of low. Right away, you're not going to put in middle school, right? I mean.
Not right away.
No, so it will be kind of a little bit at a time. What if the classes get so small that, you know, it's because it's a new concept, and,
Right.
and I'm not sure that people really understand what it is. I'm not sure we've really explained what it is, or if we really.
Well, so my personal perspective is that there are going to be a set of folks who are interested in going to Maupin because it's Maupin, and you know, they'll attend through the cluster program, and then there are going to be another set of folks, and they, I think that they will be attracted to this, that will want to come, and then there are also going to be kids that get assigned through the regular cluster student assignment process, and it may be that Maupin isn't their first or second choice, but if they're moving in the middle of the school year, that's where they get assigned. So the problem of like small, like not being able to fill classes is
So we're saying
less
that
to mine.
all kids that go there will not really want the Waldorf program. We're just going to fill the school and.
It's going to be just like it's just like BIC is now or Maupin is now, which is that they have a district-wide magnet program that brings a set of kids in, and then there's another set of kids that are there because they were assigned through the cluster assignment process.
So it really won't be a Waldorf school. It'll be a magnet. I thought it was supposed to be a whole school of Waldorf.
It is a whole school Waldorf school, and but kids will get there, some because they select to be there, and some because through the.
They're assigned there.
Yes.
But
And then if they have a concern about that they don't want to be in the Waldorf program, the student assignment office will work hard to make sure they find something that works for them.
so the communication about
could be
where
a
are you
challenge,
and what
yeah.
you can expect is really important, so you can exercise your option to request something else.
Okay, just several points of clarity. One of which you talked about, JCPS, we are going to train staff. We're going to hire a principal that is Waldorf trained. Do we currently have someone in the system that is Waldorf? What is it training to be a Waldorf principal? I know that when we went with the Montessori program, we had to send people to Cincinnati. So what are the requirements? Is that a 2-week summer program? Because we will need to hire people before a 2-week summer program. So how do we get this principal, the leader, in place so that we can get about the business of staffing the school? How do we make that happen?
So I don't have a definitive answer, but my understanding, based on what the Catalpa folks said in the meeting with families, is that there are a large number of trained, certified teachers in Jefferson County Public Schools that aren't in a Waldorf program, but they've been trained in Waldorf. And my guess is that there's going to be a set of those folks that also have principal certification. There's also a possibility that there are other folks that would be interested in the unique adventure of starting a full-fledged Waldorf program in a public school.
Does our HR system tell us who's Waldorf trained? Are we able to go into the system and say that?
I do not know that.
Not at this time. That would have to be something that we put on as additional. When we post a administrative position, we have desired qualities, and that would have to be a desired quality that then someone would have to document.
Okay, that's the administrative position, but what we heard at the meeting at Maupin was that there are people in the district working for JCPS now that are Waldorf trained that are working in other schools. So my question is, if we go into our database of teachers, is there something that tells us how many people are Waldorf trained at this time?
No, ma'am, there's not.
Okay, so the other question is, once I'm trained on Waldorf, do I go back every year? Do I go back every 2 years? Or I could have been trained 20 years ago and I'm now eligible to teach because we have a Waldorf school? Is that, I'm just trying to clarify, because these are some of the questions that were asked at the parent meeting.
So I do not have a definitive answer on the requirement, how often you need to get recertified for Waldorf training.
Okay, and then Dr. Razor, at another point you talked about increasing early childhood classes that would be available, and you mentioned that you were going to put more early childhood at Maupin. So is that now off the table because we're putting Waldorf at Maupin?
We are still going to keep some early childhood at Maupin because the idea behind it was starting and moving through really P through 8. But there will probably be a reduced number now since we see an increased enrollment at Maupin due to the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade coming.
Okay. Want to go back to what Ms. Haddad said about the importance of Maupin staying on the school name. Mr. Maupin was the superintendent. He has family. He has 2 daughters in this community. That's a community issue. It's not an innovative issue. It's a community issue. So if that name must stay on that building, or else we can name another school, because you just don't do that, along with being creative. So that's really important that we say that. What does this do to the impact of the Maupin cluster? As we look at Maupin, we have Bloom, Englehart, Hawthorne, St. Matthews, and Wheatley. How does this impact that cluster at all as we talk about keeping our numbers where they're supposed to be?
I think that there are a couple of things that I can see happen. One of the reasons why this cluster was attractive is that we think that there's going to be a set of kiddos or parents who are interested in having their kids attend a Waldorf school that are in that cluster. And this could actually create space in some other schools. And then there's also, right now, there's a relatively low percentage of kids within the Maupin resides that choose to attend Maupin. And so if we can raise that number, that's actually cost effective for us as a district, and it also is telling us something about what the school is offering their students.
Okay. My last comment is I attended most of the meeting of the parents at Maupin Elementary. I'd like to thank all the staff members that were there. There were very positive statements from parents from BIC who are involved in the Waldorf program, so they spoke to it in a positive manner. So this is not something that people have not embraced. They're just going to embrace it in another building. So I wanted to say thank you to all the staff members that were there, the staff that was there from both schools, and the parents, because there was I thought, an adequate amount of interest for that one meeting. I don't think all questions were answered, but I think that it was a good start, so thank you for that.
Thanks.
Can I ask one other thing?
Ms. Haddad?
When we change schools like this, Bob, doesn't that change the baseline so that their baseline, when they're tested, it'll start over? Yeah, you.
If it's 40% of the
population.
Something that we did, if 40% of the student population changes, then the school's baseline
So basically, in these two schools, that will happen.
I'm not sure.
There's a potential for it to happen, okay? Until we actually see who is choosing and how many kids come from BIC, and then we do the numbers. But if all 81 came from BIC, and it's 400 kids, that's pretty close to 40%.
20%.
It's like a little bit less, so we have to see not the other kids. But
Yeah.
it'd be close.
Well, I was concerned because if a lot of them don't decide to come, we get all these new kids, then that's going to be hard on them. That could affect their testing because they're going to be learning a whole new way of doing things. So we have to be sure that, and I know when we've changed schools like that, that the testing does.
Schools, if we've done something, kids leaving the school
Right.
are added into that 40% because
Right.
of change. New kids coming into
Right.
the school add to that 40%. So we know the potential of who's coming. It's that who might be leaving.
Well, I knew we changed it when we changed the Olmsteds, you know, and some of the other schools when we changed them to different programs. So I think that's important because it's going to be a whole new way of looking at things. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
Jonathan, sorry.
No. So we're going to move on to the Louisville Reach Academy, and there are kind of two components to that. One is the movement of the Phoenix School in Early Childhood to the Klondike Building, and then the other, the movement of the Klondike folks to the Myers Building. So I split those questions out. The first, are there any facility issues putting middle school and high school students in an elementary building? And the answer is really no. You know, the building